Some would say that scientists make the best public servants. They have the expertise, they are guided by facts and a steady set of principles. They are unmoved in the face of turbulent and populist politics. Hello, I'm Iya Gozum and you're watching Rappler Talk. Joining us today is DOST Secretary Renato Solidum Jr. to talk about the challenges of making science relevant to the public and a catalyst for nation building. Welcome to Rappler, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. Sir, let me start with a cause for a celebration. So this year marks your 40th year in the government. You were a fresh grad from UP when you joined FIVOX, and eventually you made your way up the ranks. This is a pageant question, sir.
Okay.
In your 40 years of service, what was your biggest takeaway as a scientist in public service?
In public service and to be a true leader for the people, I've coined the term the earthly attributes to be a leader since I'm a geologist. First, you have to be excellent in all the things that you do. And to be excellent, you need to continue learning. That's letter E. Letter A is you have your own personal ambition. But if you work in government, if you work for an organization, you must align your personal ambition with the organizational goals. So ambition and alignment, letter A. But the next thing that I really learned while working with many people would be how do we relate to those people above you and to those people that you want to serve. You must treat people with respect. Second, to be more effective, you must develop a team. That's letter T. But to develop a team, you must be a mentor. You must teach so that you'll be able to trust them and delegate them to decide by themselves, knowing that how the way they think, the way they will decide will be similar to you. But the most important thing is letter H. Letter H is the heart. You must have a passion for what you do. So if you're a public servant, you must have a passion to serve the people. So for me, the most important among the letters that form the word earth is heart. And I always put this in front. So the earth will become the word heart. Therefore, the heart is the most important. The stakeholder that you serve must be always in your mind. And that is why I said, if you want to really serve, whether as scientists or as teachers or other professions, your heart should be where the people would want to be. So that is why I say my takeaway as a scientist, as a leader is fall in love with the problem.
Fall in love with the problem.
And not the solution. Meaning, to provide the most appropriate solution to our stakeholder, you must understand the problem. And to understand the problem, you must fall in love with it. You must spend time. And because you fell in love with the problem, you must solve the problem. So you must find the most appropriate solution. So whether your field is disaster management or entrepreneurship, or if you want as a scientist to develop a product, your product must be solving the problem for the stakeholders that you want to serve.
Right. Speaking of products, sir, when you were appointed, you described your role as a facilitator and marketer of advocacies and products, and you also described the UST's mandate as to create jobs and to improve productivity. Would you say your job now is geared more towards making economic changes? And how did it evolve now that you're leading the department than 30 years ago when you were in FIVOX?
When you're just starting and your focus is really delivering a good result out of your research project, your focus is mostly output. You're output-oriented. But as you rise up the ladder, and especially when you're a division chief or a director, you become more strategic. So you now focus on the outcome. So being a director, being an undersecretary or a secretary would almost be the same. You must focus on the outcome as you lead a group of people that must deliver outputs, but those outputs should lead to the better outcome that you desire. So you really wanted to develop strategic programs that will create an impact. So when I became the secretary, and I remember the interview we had, I said that I'll be a facilitator, a marketer of what DOST is doing, especially the products that we produce or the scientific community that is part of our network. At VVox, the product would be the information or the apps that we develop. But we don't sell this. But we need to market this to the local governments, the business sector, so that they can use the most appropriate information and the technology for their own decision-making and planning. Although in DOST, the product would be different, the target will still be making sure that these are applied, used, and better if these can be scaled up, commercialized, so that more people can use it, the better. So out of what we do in DOST, we created 4 strategic pillars so that we can make DOST outcomes more relatable to people.
Yeah.
Because we have 18 attached organizations, 17 regional offices, 80 provincial science and technology offices, to describe what we do in DOST will take a long time.
Yeah.
And people may remember something, but not all. And so what we did was to develop 4 strategic pillars which are very relevant and can actually be focused on, first, to improve the quality of life of Filipinos by promoting the human well-being. And that is to address health concerns, the research and development, access to nutritious food, access to clean water, having a clean environment. And that would mean that we have to look at production of clean energy and the use of clean transport systems.
Yeah.
And of course, people desire access to decent shelter and clothing. If you look at all of those, we have research organizations doing these things, plus of course, quality science and technology education. In reality, I've heard that one of the wishes of most Filipinos is to improve their quality of life, especially on having good health, long life. The second, and very important for Filipinos, is to have enough income to sustain their daily needs. And so, the second pillar for DOST is to create wealth out of the research and development that we do. So we need to translate the research results into something that can be adopted by local government, the business sector, and more importantly, if commercialized, so that people can use it while producing wealth through improvement in the productivity of enterprises, either through new research results or applying science, technology, innovation that have been proven to be effective to create more enterprises and to create jobs. We need to make sure that our research is geared towards really
Making people's lives
making people
easier.
realize that out of what we do, their economic transformation can be realized through science, technology, and innovation. But to do that, we need to have our researchers gain market perspective. So it is important for the researchers to partner with business development people. For example, one of the first agreement that I had was with the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And now we have a strategic partnership in using science, technology, and innovation for their MSME and industry concerns. Now, the other pillar relates to what Pag-asa and FIVOX and other offices of DOST are doing. We should not focus only on saving lives, but we should also focus on saving livelihood or businesses. We have seen this during the COVID pandemic. People are safe from the pandemic, but they lost their
But
jobs.
they don't have jobs, right?
So, the economic development of a country can be affected by pandemics, by extreme natural hazards, or climate change, or even conflicts. So therefore, we need to make sure that our livelihood, our businesses are resilient despite these existing risks or threats. And to do that, we have to really elevate our climate and disaster resilience by making sure that we not only protect the human lives, but also the wealth that we created should be protected. Our economic development is undermined by extreme disasters and climate change. So that's the third pillar. So we have the wealth protection to support wealth creation and sustainable development. The fourth is the concept of sustainability. We need to institutionalize sustainability to make sure that our natural resources are still around for the use of the next generation while we are using this to add value, to create wealth, to develop businesses. But beyond this, sustainability is also a word that we use to make sure that our scientific efforts, the DOST and the scientific community, will be continued by making sure that the appropriate science, technology, and innovation are applied at the national and local level, in the business sector, in the community. And of course, when we look at the front lines of the action where we need to infuse science, technology, and innovation, this can be the industry, aside from the national government, more importantly, the local government. So we are developing smart and sustainable communities, be it a city, town, or barangay, or even a province, so that we can ensure that the results that we have gained, we have produced, and future results will be used to develop an open, where decision-making is based on data, collaborative, where we all work together for a common goal, citizen-centric, and digitally transformed local governance.
Right.
And so all of these now are interrelated. And in fact, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, all these goals are collapsed into the 4 pillars. So in the end, if we do this, and if we are able to gain partnership with many sectors of society, then people will now remember DOST, not simply not because of scholarship or the weather forecast of Pag-asa or the prediction of erupting volcanoes by FIVOX, but a department composed of many agencies that provide solutions and open opportunities.
Right.
Because if you talk about science, people will say, what's in it for us?
Yes, exactly.
So that's what we're trying to do. In our messaging, if you talk about MSMEs, simple message, sa siyensya at teknolohiya or sa siyensya at teknolohiya at inobasyon, negosyo mo, tsaka kita.
And people won't usually connect livelihood to science, right? Or to the mandate of the OST.
Yes, but in reality, the improvement in productivity needs science, technology, and innovation, and that's our mandate.
Yeah.
In reality, they're using, for example, if you're in the food business, if you use a big cooking machine, equipment, that's from science and technology. The menu for healthy food comes from research. So in reality, we are trying to explain that you're actually experiencing the fruits of research and science, technology, and innovation application.
Right.
So even in developing new enterprises, we are part of the startup ecosystem. We provide funds for our startups, and the big thing that we apply is to really rigidly evaluate the proposal on how science and technology can further improve their potential of being a winner. We are also providing assistance to micro, small, and medium enterprises. We are also providing assistance to large companies through provision of either research collaboration with universities or provision of financing for them to acquire technology or machines. So in reality, what we are providing in DOST is not only the financing, but more importantly, the scientific guidance, that and we don't just provide one-off the guidance, we handhold our partners.
Right. So, sir, as you've been describing, as we've been seeing, it's an understatement to say that the scope of DOST is huge. So you create electric transport vehicles, you're exploring nuclear energy and fuel cells, you're working on improving a disaster risk reduction, funding research also about the West Philippine Sea. And everybody else, lawmakers especially, always say that Filipino scientists need more support. But if there's already that recognition, why do we always hear consistently from our scientists na kulang yung suporta?
Well, I think from my perspective, I might be thinking differently. Of course, we need more funding support to do more research. But the reality is, scientists need to also be good communicators and need to have proof that we can deliver out of our research, that we can influence the way we decide, and more importantly, science, technology, innovation would be the drivers of transformation, especially economic development. That is why the focus is to make sure that scientists that are producing products should not simply write papers out of the research, but more importantly, commercialize it if possible, so that more people can benefit from the technology and we also gain wealth out of it so that we can fund more research. We need to return the investment given to us as well. And so therefore, if we look at the funding given to DOST, it has been increasing.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, we're asking for more proposals because we have enough fund. But to make sure that these research results are used for something would be the primary objective of our current administration. Your research must continue into something else that is useful for the Filipinos, because that is our mandate. Our mandate is to lead and coordinate science, technology, and innovation programs and projects for the social and economic benefit
Right.
of the people.
Secretary, I'm curious, do you have a wish list of innovations that the DOST backed and supported that are not yet commercially produced, but you feel should be?
Well, we have been introducing the concept of really localizing the improvement of our transport systems, like, for example, electric tricycles, electric jeepneys. We can develop electric boats. We have a project on converting the old buses to electric buses. We now have an ongoing project to develop an electric ferry for the Pasig River. We have developed the hybrid electric train. We have an oral agreement with the Department of Transportation to develop the second generation hybrid train that can be used by the Philippine National Railways. All of these transport systems can actually be localized. There are some parts that we cannot do, but I think the thing lacking is the investment.
Yeah.
We need to encourage the private sector to have investments in this. Maybe for the tricycle, we're gaining traction on some jeepneys. For the train, we hope that we can fast track it. But what they need to know would be the government's plan. That's why we're talking to DOTR. So that's one. By developing the transport system, we're also developing the metals and engineering sector, the fabricators, because you just don't develop this vehicle. Maintenance, once you have this, you will have the sellers,
Yeah.
right? And many others. Second, we also wanted to promote the use of Filipino industry, the fabricators, to develop agricultural machinery, to mechanize many of our farming processes.
Right.
And that is needed. The question, though, is can we also develop our steel industry? And if we want to develop that, we have our mines, so we need to process it. The next question is, can we have the power to sustain this industry?
Yeah.
So our thinking is that if we can do that, we can create more jobs,
Right.
and of course have our economy actually develop. We also wanted to look into the biomedical devices that we have developed. For example, the RX box. The patent is with UP. 6 out of 10 Filipinos, they say, die because without ever seeing a doctor. So we want to address this issue by focusing on telehealth. And we saw the importance of telehealth during
During the
COVID,
pandemic,
right?
yeah.
So that's one. The other wish that I have is I hope that our clinical trials to develop a dengue pill will be successful. So we hope that this can be done in the next several years. So there are many things, but definitely there are small products here and there. I hope that with the Tatak Pinoy, this can be supported because procurement law before was not conducive to support the innovators. The other thing that I wanted addressed would be the lack of potable water in many islands in the Philippines. So we have been establishing desalination plants, small desalination plants in villages, remote villages, or using technology to supply potable water to mountainous areas. But I have been asking several research groups to develop Filipino-made desalination machines that will be cost-effective or competitive to imported ones. We can compete with after-sale service because if they develop it here, then it's faster to have this after-sale support. Then we can actually provide many villages with machines that can provide them potable water. I have so many wish lists because we cover many things.
Yeah.
For disaster resilience, my message is always the Philippines is a natural laboratory of various hazards. We have experienced it. We have practical ways of approaching how to handle these risks. And we can prove that Filipinos will not simply be viewed as victims of disasters, but through science, technology, and innovation, and our Bayanihan spirit of collaboration, we can be victors. But we need to address the risks, and there are solutions to address this. So I can go on and on, but there are low-hanging fruits that are already there. So one of the things that we will soon do is launch the program Propel of DOST.
Okay. What's that, sir? Can you elaborate further?
As mentioned already, we have a problem with crossing the valley of death from research to commercialization.
Yeah.
And that's a common problem in many countries, especially ASEAN. So we will facilitate the interaction between technology producers and investors and capitalists by producing a platform with around 12 services that are already available in DOST. But we will unify this so that we can have a free interaction between technology producers and potential investors and capitalists, so that we can have more people interested in supporting local technology.
Sir, I'm glad you brought that up. Tomorrow, for example, you will be at the Plastic Technology Conference with SM Investments Corporation.
Yes.
What's the role of the private sector in rolling out new technology? And how do you work together now?
Of course, when we look at things, whether we are in the private sector or in government or in the local community, we use products.
Yeah.
And some of these products can be harmful to the environment.
Yeah.
We don't intend to do that, but because of the necessity to have those products like plastics, before it was very useful, but now it's becoming a disaster. Then we need to work together to solve the problems that we actually have created. And for me, to scale up efforts to make an impact so that the solutions will be more meaningful, we need to work with industries. And industries also have the responsibility.
Right.
They don't want these things to happen, but if perhaps there are new solutions that can lessen the impact of the environment, that is much better. That is why the plastics tactic for plastic solutions, plastic means the Plastic Technology Innovation Analysis, TIK, will be rolled out tomorrow, where we will be inviting people from the science community, the NGOs, the government, the private sector, so that we can discuss these problems thoroughly and discuss the possible solutions. And it will not be a one-off event. One of the highlights would be the DOST and SM signing a memorandum of understanding to partner and to help solve this issue.
Sir, do you see any room for compromises when partnering with the private sector?
Well, compromising is a word that cannot be used now, because at the DOST side, when we talk about solutions, we look at the best possible solution available now. Now, when it comes to policy, that's different.
Okay.
We focus on the technical solution. The policies can also be discussed with other agencies. But for example, the use of plastic, if we can develop cost-effective biodegradable plastic, we have a startup that is producing biodegradable plastic. So certain industry can afford because their stakeholders are well off. They can pay more. But perhaps we can use other materials that are biodegradable and not really plastic for packaging. So tomorrow I will present the circular economy framework of DOST, and that includes plastic. The framework focuses on the science, technology, and innovation for circular economy. We are introducing a way of doing things that can be beneficial to all.
Okay.
And of course, what we wanted to do is use as much as many parts of what agricultural products or commodity we have, and making sure that it is less harmful to the environment. And you need science, technology, and innovation for circular economy.
Right.
And the plastic is just one.
Sir, let's go from the huge industries to communities on
Yes.
the ground. People would always say they want leadership that is scientific and data-driven, but more often than not, this is just something that people say, or it's just rhetoric. But you've worked with communities.
Yes.
How would you describe a scientific and data-driven leadership on ground? What does it actually look like? And what would it take for local officials to implement that kind of leadership?
Okay. So, I always think of people as someone who has good faith, that the intention is always pure.
Okay,
Or at
okay.
least good, right?
Okay.
Because otherwise, you'll go into several pathways. So, based on my experience in disaster risk reduction, they need guidance. You
What
cannot-
kind of guidance, sir?
For example, how to plan for risk reduction, how to plan for recovery. And my way of doing things is to provide the information and to guide them for planning.
Right.
So that their role now is to implement the plan that is created. So for example, 15 years ago, I thought of developing an app that will let people know where the faults are. So we developed the FIFOX Fault Finder. And then next was to develop an app where all the hazards can be assessed. And we developed the Hazard Hunter.
Right.
In less than 1 minute, you can assess all the hazards.
Right.
And the third app that I wanted to develop back then was a planning guide for the local government, so that they can prepare and respond and recover
That
from
sounds
it.
more sustainable, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we developed the Plan Smart. The Plan Smart is the only automated planning for disaster recovery in the world. But this is a result of the partnership between NDRMC OCD, the World Bank, and the DOST FIFOX. And the local governments really enjoyed and found the Plan Smart very useful. So we're now embarking with the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development to develop a planning guide, an app for resilient settlement. So based on my experience is that they need guidance. And typically before, the guidance would come from national agency or consultants, but does not cover the whole local governance system. If they can afford, they can have a consultant. But we are now providing the consultants through the app. So the consultancy that is done is through the app when they follow it. So DOST is now developing roadmaps to infuse innovation using science, technology, and science and technology to accelerate their local development. We are also helping LGUs, those that are our pilot LGUs, in the Smart and Sustainable Communities program, develop a roadmap for them to be smart and sustainable in the future. So for me, the role is to guide them and use our provincial and regional offices as our frontliners.
Sir, from your experience, how receptive are these communities to the guidance that you offer, to new technology?
Very receptive. You know, the local governments are beset with many required plans.
Yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, yeah.
And we offer the solution to really fast track their planning and maybe at some point integrate many of this. Before, we didn't have this automated planning. What we do is go down to the community, talk to the individual residents, mostly the housewives during daytime as the men were at work. They were at work, but by talking to the communities, they're very receptive because you give them the information, you empower them to decide and participate. So at the grassroots level, in geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, we also have a program because we say that science and technology is inclusive. So it's not only for those that know how to fund it. From every level can use science and technology. So we have with the community empowerment through science and technology focused on GIDA areas. And we have 5 entry points. Education, health and nutrition that includes water and sanitation, livelihood, disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and environmental management. If you look at all of those, it's very similar to the 4 strategic pillars, but focused on their community. So what we do in DOST is not a grand plan that would be applied the same way for all the local governments. What we do is we develop fit-for-purpose solutions, what is appropriate to their context.
Right.
We don't procure equipment and share it to all with the same style and volume of products that the equipment can handle. We study the needs of the local community, and then we decide together with them the most appropriate intervention. Because sometimes you don't need a very, very modern or very, very technical or very, very big equipment. They might not be able to power it and use it because of the electricity constraint. So we need to really study the needs and provide the fit-for-purpose solution.
And that means really going on ground,
Yes.
right? And to
Yes.
really try to understand what the community
Getting your feet muddy on the
Yes,
ground.
yes.
And so I'm very thankful and very happy to the DOST family, especially our people in the province and region and our researchers in the national agency. They really go down and see the problems. So that's why I'm reinforcing what they have been doing to really have them fall in love with a real problem so that we can provide the real world solutions. So real world solutions to real world problems.
Right.
Yun yung kailangan.
Secretary, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yes.
Look towards the future. In one of the hearings for your 2025 proposed budget, you expressed the need for more campuses of the Philippine Science High School. What are we investing in exactly by having a pool of scientists and engineers? And what kind of future are we preparing for?
I'm not saying that we just need more Philippine Science High School.
Yeah,
We need to improve our educational system,
Yeah,
especially in its formative years. My statement is related to the fact that we are increasing our R&D budget. We are facing many challenges, not only nationally but globally. By looking at a global perspective, we can also leverage what we know, what we produce in the Philippines to market it so that we can have the economic return.
Yeah.
But we need more people to do science, engineering, and research. And we have seen how important the role of the Philippine Science High School is. Even if some of them would not go to research, but they have the science background, they still use it in their own profession. But the more students we have in high school that we graduate, focused on science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the chances that we will have more researchers. And we need more researchers, scientists, and engineers to really improve our research standing and our innovation index and making sure that these are converted to the solutions that people can actually use.
Right. And hopefully, sir, we will have in the future more scientists in public service.
Yes, and I think people have many ways of being fulfilled.
Yeah.
Of course, many would prefer high income, which
That's
is understandable. But if you have enough income, but you see that you make an impact to people's lives, We've seen many DOST interventions that changed people's lives from very poor to very wealthy. We can show that science, technology, and innovation works.
Right.
We need proof, and we have a lot of proof already. And I hope that this will be seen by many, that through science, technology, and innovation, there is always hope. Kaya nga sinasabi ko pag ako'y nagsasalita, alam mo, kapag ginamitan mo ng siyensya at teknolohiya yung negosyo, kikita yan. Yung industriya arangkada. Kaya nga kung gagawin natin yan, and we have science and business merged, that's why we're promoting entrepreneurship even in our scholars, then we can say that our future is bright.
Sir,
Ang mukha ng Pilipino ay may pag-asa.
right. Sir,
Mukha
I'm
ng
glad
pag-asa.
that you brought up fulfillment. Because for my last question, which is also a pageant question, the way I started this interview, what was the most fulfilling part of your 4 decades of being a scientist for the people? And what are your plans after 2028?
One of the most fulfilling moment for me would be when I go to the community, very poor communities, but almost more than 90% of the village would participate in our drills. Like for example, when we were doing tsunami drills in eastern coast of the Philippines, even the different people with disabilities participate. Binibit-bit sila using mga hammocks made out of the kumot, the blanket. And they participate, and they believe us. Our strategy is to make sure that the head of the office, like myself or officials of the office, would be present in the area, because once they see that the head of the office spends time with them, they will consider that occasion as an important event. So we usually do that. I've also seen the works of our DOST employees helping other people improve from having a house which is barong-barong to a 2-story concrete house, marble pa. I've seen and I've conversed with people like seaweed farmers that they used to dry the seaweed in the coast. So maalikabok, they can only sell it 30 pesos per kilo. But when our staff created through a consultant a floating raft shaped like a house with plastic sheets, parang naging greenhouse, they can dry the seaweed, mas mabilis, mas malinis. They can sell it in 150 pesos per kilo. So those simple technologies
that actually
transform
serve
people's
people.
lives.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And so we actually intervene at various levels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very simple application, but also cutting edge application. So of course, the bottom line is when you're able to help people address their problems, and when you see that they believe you, it's a fulfilling job.
And at the end of the day, sir, the work really is about building trust.
Yes, it's
in communities.
Yeah, that's why in my attributes I mentioned, you must have a passion to serve. Your heart must be in the right place, and build trust. But to build trust, you need to be excellent in your work, and you don't put your personal ambition above the ambition of your organization and the need of the person.
Right.
And always treat them with respect.
Thank you, Secretary, for sharing the work that you do in the DOST.
I haven't answered the last question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What
Sir,
do I
your
do?
20 plans before
I'll be
after
65
2028.
in 2028. I think I will continue working. I might be not full-time, but if I'm offered to work for groups, I can say yes, or even still in government in some form or another. I don't think I'll be 100% retired.
Yeah, very tireless.
I will still help habang may hininga.
Anyway, thank you, Secretary. If you're just tuning in, we've been talking to DOST Secretary Renato Solidum Jr. To follow Rappler's coverage of science, climate, and the environment, check out the Environment and Science channel on the Rappler Communities app. Again, I'm Iya Gozum, and this is Rappler Talk.